Let's finish chapter 14 with the arrival of Lucas. "Hey, Drooly," said Hatcher. "Your friend Lucas is here." "Hatcher!" My face flamed. The last thing I needed was for that stupid nickname to get out. I could only imagine what would happen if Scooter and Calhoun got a hold of it. "Drooly, huh?" boomed Cha-Cha, and my brother looked a bit taken back. I was used to it by now, but Cha-Cha's deep voice seemed to surprise people the first time they hear it. "You and Erastus are definitely tied, truly." "Shut up!" I swatted her with the envelope again. Cha-Cha laughed. "Don't worry, your secret's safe with us, right, Lucas?" Lucas stood in the doorway, looking like he might bolt at any second. His face was even redder than mine. He'd probably never been in a girl's room before. "It's okay, Lucas," I told him. "You can come in, we won't bite." Behind him, Hatcher bared his teeth and pretended to chomp down on the top of Lucas's head. I ignored him, but Cha-Cha let out a little giggle. Lucas shuffled timidly forward. He gazed around my room. "Nice owl," he said, spotting the woodcut over my bed. "Thanks. So what are you guys up to anyway?" asked Hatcher, lounging against the door jamb. I hesitated, tempted to tell him about the mystery we were trying to solve. Between school, tutoring sessions, and his endless wrestling practices, I felt like I'd hardly seen him since we moved to Pumpkin Falls. I was used to not seeing much of Danny. He was 3 years older and busy with high school, but I really missed spending time with Hatcher. "Homework," Cha-Cha told him before I could open my mouth. My brother made a face. "Too bad. Danny and I are heading to the general store. Tell Mom we'll be home in time for dinner, okay?" He barely left before Lauren and Annie Freeman wandered in with Miss Maple. Annie had quickly established herself as Lauren's new best friend. "You want to meet my turtle?" Lauren asked. She loved showing off her pets. "Sure," said Cha-Cha, taking it gingerly from her. "What's his name?" "Methuselah," Lauren replied. "I can spell that," Annie told us and promptly did. Methuselah lived to be 969 years old. "Do you think your turtle will live to be that old, Lauren?" "I bet your hamster won't. I had a hamster named Nantucket because that's where I got her. We called her Nan for short. She was only 2 when she died." Lauren shot me a worried look. Nibbles had turned 2 just before we left Austin. We had a birthday party for him and everything. "You have pets, don't you, Cha-Cha?" I said hastily, and she nodded. "Why don't you tell Lauren about them?" "We have 2 cats, Fred and Ginger. They're named after Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers." Seeing our blank looks, Cha-Cha added, "I guess you guys don't watch many old movies, huh?" "They're famous dancers. My father thought it'd be funny since we own the Starlight and everything." She passed Methuselah back to Lauren, who offered to let Lucas hold him too. "No thanks," he said, taking a step back. "He doesn't bite," Lauren assured him. "Don't you have any pets?" Lucas shook his head. Big surprise there. His helicopter mom was probably too worried he'd get fleas. Pippa and Baxter must have heard us all talking because they barged into the room next. Baxter ran over to Cha-Cha and gave her a big hug. "I can tap dance," my little sister announced. Without waiting for a response, she launched into a shuffle step routine. When she was done, she went over and plunked herself down next to Baxter and Cha-Cha. I rolled my eyes, but Cha-Cha just grinned. "Ooh," said Annie, pouncing on a brochure I left at my desk. On the cover, beneath the words, "Pumpkin Falls Coalition," was a picture of Mr. and Mrs. Abramowitz and a bunch of kids twirling across the dance floor with huge smiles on their faces. Annie sighed. "I can't wait till I'm in middle school. My sister Sarah says that Cotillion is totally awesome. You should have seen her at the Winter Festival the year that she was in it. She had on this really pretty dress with sparkles and everything. There was a live band and decorations and snacks too. Everybody says she was the best dancer." Honestly, did Annie ever shut up? "Go find something else to do," I told my sisters and their friends, shooting them out of my room. I shut the door firmly behind them. They left, but just barely. I could still hear whispering out in the hall. The 4 of them were trying to spy on us. "Baxter does the same thing when I have friends over," Cha-Cha assured me. I racked my brain, trying to think of some place more private that we could go. Danny and Hatcher were gone, but if we went up to the 3rd floor, the younger kids would simply just follow us. And the basement, which my brothers had dubbed the Spider Farm, was way too creepy. Then I had a bright idea, but I was gonna have to be sly. "Snack time!" I announced loudly, shoving the envelope in my backpack. I shouldered it and crossed the room, motioning for Cha-Cha and Lucas to follow me. Lauren and Annie and Pippa and Baxter fell in behind us as we headed down the hall. Miss Maple took up the rear. Downstairs, my mother was still sitting in the dining room table, her homework spread out in front of her. "Can we make popcorn?" I asked. "Sure," she replied absently. "Bring me some, would you?" "I want popcorn too," Pippa whined. "You bet, Pipster," I told her. "Why don't you and Bax go help Lauren and Annie pick out a movie to watch while I make it?" The four of them vanished through the door to the L. Most really old houses in New England have an L, a room that used to connect the house to the barn. That way, the farmers and their families could easily get from one to the other without having to go outside in the cold. Back when Dad and Aunt True were teenagers, Gramps and Lola had turned their L into a family room. "Thanks, honey," my mom said a few minutes later when I brought her a bowl of popcorn. "I'm so glad to see you having fun with your friends." I was a little surprised to hear that I was having fun. Maybe not quite Mackenzie level fun, but still fun. Cha-Cha and Lucas and I lingered for a few minutes, waiting until the younger kids were engrossed in their movie. Then, I picked up our popcorn bowl and motioned to my friends to follow me as I slipped through the door to the garage. We tiptoed up the stairs to Lola's art studio. Nobody would think to look for us there. Fortunately, the key was still by the door, tucked behind my grandmother's painting of the Lovejoy Mountain. I slipped it from its hook, unlocked the door, and led Cha-Cha and Lucas inside. Shivering, I switched on the heat and crossed the room to the sofa. Afternoon sun flooded through the wall of windows behind it. Technically, we probably weren't supposed to be up there, but nobody had exactly told me that it was off limits, and there wasn't any place I could think of for the four of us to go. "The first meeting of the Pumpkin Falls Private Eyes is called to order," I said, taking a seat. "Seriously?" Cha-Cha's dimple flashed. "What's wrong with that?" I replied, stung. Cha-Cha wrinkled her nose. "It's kind of dorky." "Well, then you come up with something better then." She shook her head. "No, that's okay. You can call us the Pumpkin Falls Private Eyes if you want to." "I don't have to," I said stiffly. "No, really, it's fine." Somewhat mollified, I pulled the envelope out of my backpack, along with a pad of yellow-lined paper and pen, and placed them on the coffee table. Lucas circled the spacious room, looking at Lola's paintings. My grandmother loved flowers, and a bright spill of them lit up the canvases on the walls. "These are really good," he said. "I know," I told him, "but can you please pay attention? Our top order of business today is to review the evidence." Drawing a line down the center of the yellow-lined pad, I wrote 2 categories across the top: what we know and what we don't know. "So, what do we know?" I asked, scooping up a handful of popcorn. Cha-Cha took the letter out of the envelope and looked at it again. "We know it's from B to B." I wrote that down. Lucas raised his hand. "Spit it out, Lucas," I told him. "It's just us, it's not school." "We know the stamp is 20 years old," he said. I wrote that down too. "And thanks to you," I told him, "I know that the numbers at the bottom of the letter aren't code, but call numbers for a book." "Anything else?" "The letter is a part of the scavenger hunt, we think," said Cha-Cha, reaching for more popcorn. I wrote down scavenger hunt. "But we don't know who B and B are," said Lucas. I wrote down who are B and B in the where we don't know column, then tapped my pencil on the notepad. "Let's make a list of everyone we know whose names have a B in them," I said, flipping over to the next page. "Like Principal Burnside and Mr. Bigelow, our science teacher," said Lucas. "Right!" I jotted down both of their names. "How about Mr. Jefferson?" said Cha-Cha. "He told us that everyone calls him Bud. It even says so in the yearbook, too." "What yearbook?" asked Lucas. "The one back in Truly's room," Cha-Cha told him. "It belonged to her aunt." "Ooh, good catch," I said. "Oh, and we can't forget Belinda Winchester. Don't you think she looks exactly like the kind of person who would stick a letter in a book and forget about it?" "Maybe," said Cha-Cha. "But it seems kind of strange for a lunch lady to write a letter." "She was a lunch lady?" said Lucas, surprised. "Yeah," I told him, adding Belinda Winchester to the list anyway. "What about Ella Bello?" said Cha-Cha. "Oof, I got it," I said, jotting her name down. "And there's Mr. Henry, too." That's an H, Cha-Cha objected. He introduced himself as Henry Butterworth, I reminded her. He's definitely a B. I shot her a mischievous look. Ooh, and of course, we can't forget about Baxter. He wasn't even born back then. I'm joking, Cha-Cha. Anyway, there are way too many bees in this town. I threw down my pen. We were getting nowhere. So what's the deal with Calhoun? I asked. Did you talk to him about getting us into the library? Not yet, Cha-Cha replied. If you want to catch him at just the right moment, I think I have the angle, though. She gave us a sly smile. I've never seen the coalition list. I've never seen the cotillion list. We might have an in with his dance partner. All right, that's the end of chapter 14. You know the drill. Tell me, what's going on in the book? What happened on this little play date? What's going on in your head? What sort of thoughts are you thinking? And what's happening in your heart? What emotions do you have?